talk a little bit more about childcare, and so I'll turn it over to Leslie.
Hi, Leslie Stonehunker. It's nice to see you. I would first of all like to thank you for deciding to run again. So glad that your health is okay. You gave us quite a scare, truthfully. So.
Get you a scan.
On a similar note, I'd like to thank you for slow jamming the news with Jimmy Fallon. I'm still chuckling over it. If anybody saw it, it was pretty great, actually. And in all seriousness, I'd like to further expand into some of the comments you made in regards to accessibility, affordability, and the child care workforce itself. My husband's a stage 4 cancer survivor. I left the field after 27 years of working in child care administration because I got scared that if something happened to my husband, I would have to be the one to carry health insurance and retirement, of which weren't really afforded to me or were affordable when I was working in the field. My question to you is, if elected, what specific strategies might you put in place to increase access and affordability for children and families?
Okay. I'm going to answer your question, but let me ask, we're a small enough group where we can have a discussion. My assumption is, what I've seen in my own state and around the country, is that child care workers are paid inadequately for the important work they do, and often the centers, not intentionally, they just don't have the revenue. When people don't have a lot of money, they can't pay a lot of money. There's not a lot of money coming in, you can't pay the kind of salaries that you need. And often, child care workers don't have the benefits that they need. Is that the case here in Iowa?
Absolutely.
Okay, give me an example. So if I wanted to become a child care worker, which, by the way, and let me just say this, one of the things we're trying to do in our campaign, when we talk about changing priorities, is to really reevaluate what work is important. So I happen to think that hedge fund managers are not doing some of the most important work in America. Their work is not as important as child care workers, actually, despite the fact that they make a zillion times more than a child care worker. Teachers are doing some of the most important work. So we've got to change our appreciation of the value of what people are doing. Okay. So as I said earlier, and let's discuss it. Would appreciate your thoughts on it. The goal is to do what many other countries already do, and that is universal child care. We make a distinction, and by the way, it's not just for child care, it's for higher education. My recollection is that Iowa actually was one of the leaders in public education in this country. 100 plus years ago, Iowa led the effort to make sure that all kids, regardless of income, got a good education from first grade through 12th grade. We have got to expand that concept of free public education. So that's why I believe in free public colleges and universities, and why I believe we need to make childcare either free or affordable to everybody. I mean, 100 years ago, somebody made a distinction between little kids, somebody who's 3 and somebody who's 6. And what we have not kept pace with, and somebody jump in and correct me if you disagree with me, in the 1950s, what America was about is mom stayed home with the kids, and dad went out to work. That ain't America today. Mom is out working, okay? So we have to redefine what child care is about. And therefore, I think that we understand that child care is exactly the way we treat public education in general. And we will, the day is gonna come. But we can't keep thinking about the 1950s when mom stayed home with the kids, because mom has gotta go out to work to take care of the family. And we'll fund that in a progressive way. And what's very important to me is I don't want child care workers to see themselves as second-class citizens. I can't become a teacher for whatever reason. Maybe I don't have the education. I'll become a child care worker. I want our child care workers to be as well-educated as possible, well-trained as possible, and paid. It's a tough job dealing with little kids all day long. I want them to make a career of it. So this requires a substantial increase in federal funding. I work with others to double funding for the Child Care Development Block Grant, you may recall. I work with Elizabeth Warren and others, as a matter of fact, to do that. And I'm proud of that. But we've got to go a lot further than that.
It was a big boost, but it wasn't enough.
No, I got that.
I appreciate that, thank you.
Yeah, but we did double funding,
Yeah.
but it is absolutely.
We gotta start somewhere.
Okay.
Next, we'll discuss safety and well-being, and so Brent will discuss that issue.
Good afternoon, Senator.
I like your sweater.
Thanks. I talked to him right before I was going to say Senator, my name is Brent Pattison. I teach at Drake Law School and run the Middleton Children's Rights Center. And as part of that work, my law students and I represent kids in juvenile court in child welfare cases. And we get a kind of a front seat to what our system does well, but also some of the things that are really flawed about how we protect kids and help families reunify when they're involved in the child welfare system. For example, right now we've got DHS social workers carrying, double or triple what, kind of national social work standards tell us are reasonable caseloads in these cases. And it really impacts how families experience the system, for sure. I'm particularly interested in what kind of ideas you have for improving child safety and well-being in the U.S., and particularly with regard to prevention and our response to child abuse and neglect.
I thought where your question was going, so let me go where I thought it was going, and then we'll go back to where it went. One of the things that I think we all know is extremely frightening is the level of gun violence in this country. That is not where you went, I know that. But in Iowa and in other states, I talked to a lot of parents. I guess I'll never forget, somebody in New Hampshire actually said, Bernie, what am I supposed to tell my 11-year-old daughter who wants me to buy her a bulletproof backpack? So we have got to focus on that issue as well, because it's not just the terrible deaths that we're seeing out there. It is the kind of, all the schools now, my grandchildren go to schools where they have, what do they call them, emergency training if God forbid something terrible happens. And, what a terrible thing for a kid to have to be thinking about. That is not what we would want. All right, I think one of the things that we do, to answer your question, and thank you for the work you're doing, is to make sure that families in America have the income that they need. All right. The truth is there are a lot of families today who are struggling. There are kids who are not getting the kind of nutritional support that they need. There are some kids, the numbers are staggering. You may know it better than I do, of kids who are sleeping in cars and homeless who go from school to school as their families migrate. So we're going to raise the minimum wage to a living wage. Now, $15 an hour is not going to make anybody rich. But I can tell you, in this state where your minimum wage is still $7.25, I've talked to a mama just a few months ago right here in Des Moines. She works in a fast food place. She makes $10.25 an hour, 3 kids, she can't make it. All right. So raising the wage is a step forward, making sure that women receive equal pay to men, making sure easier workers can join unions, earn higher wages. We are going, in that regard, focus on an issue we're not talking about today, but the issue of housing, the housing crisis, which surprisingly all over this country is a very, very serious issue having to do with gentrification and everything else. We'll put money in that. All right, the bottom line is we will support parents in every way that we can so that they can be good parents. And I get back to the point that I began this with, and we should be ashamed of ourselves. We should be ashamed that we are a nation which prioritizes tax breaks for billionaires and large corporations and has a rate of childhood poverty which is just outrageously high. So what this is about, and again, thank you for the work you're doing, what this is about is understanding that the future of this country rests with the children. We are not treating them well right now. We've got to change that in every respect.